Good morning. Welcome to episode 36 of Morning Buzz with Energy Guy. I'm Tom Moore, the host. I am recording in Clovis, New Mexico at the Farmers Electric Cooperative headquarters. And I just hope you're having an absolute glorious start to your day. I'm feeling pretty good myself. The 30-day session is behind us here in New Mexico and was over as of this last Thursday at 12 o'clock noon Mountain Time. And there was a big from a lot of people. Two bills we were following very closely. Well, three. One was the fire mitigation. What was that called? I can't remember which one it was. But anyway, it was introduced by Senator Pat Woods, and it was a fire mitigation bill that would limit the liability of electric companies, whether they be cooperative, municipal, or investor-owned, on damages from fires they had something to do with or deemed to be responsible for. That's always a tough call anyway. I mean, I think it's absolutely impossible sometimes to tell where a fire starts, but it is what it is. We have electrical overhead power lines, and the winds around eastern New Mexico are extremely high, and no matter what we do as a utility, it is almost impossible to keep these lines from like slapping together or an insulator breaking or a cross arm support breaking or a cross arm breaking, and the wire falling to the ground and possibly causing a spark, which then could be ignited even further by high winds. But you mix in a lot of fuel from dead vegetation that hasn't been well managed, and very, very dry conditions. I mean, in Clovis, we've had maybe 5 inches of snow this year, and then on one day, and then a dusting on the other. Very little rain this through the fall and into the winter, so we are very dry, and it's basically a tinderbox. But anyway, that bill did fail, but there was some support and from both sides, so that bill may be reintroduced in the 60-day session next year. The other two bills we were watching closely, well, I was anyway. One of them was Senate Bill 17, which was the firearms bill that limited possession of semi-automatic rifles, gas-operated, to those that already have them. They would be deemed unlawful to purchase or transfer. So if you already had one, there was language in the bill that said they had to be registered with the state, which would include the owner's name, address, brand name, model number, serial number, et cetera, and that would be a gas-operated rifle that was capable of taking a greater than 10-round magazine, which is a lot of rifles out there. I'm not sure how it affected pistols because, many of those are gas-operated as well and have large capacity, so they would have probably figured out a way to work that into the law as well. But it was defeated. Also mentioned in the bill were 50 caliber rifles. There's been a onslaught of crimes, that included the use of 50 caliber rifles here in New Mexico. I mean, it's just, you can't hardly open the newspaper or turn on the television without hearing about one. Not really, I'm being facetious here. I don't know that I've ever heard of a crime involving a 50 caliber rifle, but it was on the bill as introduced. And what else? Magazines capable of more than 10 rounds, which is a lot of magazines out there. Anyway, it would have hurt small businesses for sure. It would have impeded lawful, law-abiding citizens from protecting themselves, and it just made it very, very difficult for the average citizen to practice their Second Amendment rights. So that was defeated. So I was excited about that. It actually never even made it out of Judiciary Committee, so the session was over before they could get it to the floor to vote. It did pass the Senate, but it never made it to the House. Another one we were watching very closely was Senate Bill 18, SB 18. The bill was, it was called the New Horizons Bill, which, nobody was offended by that. That sounded pretty nice. It's got a nice ring to it. But it was a bill which would have codified the governor's executive orders on climate change that would have crippled small business, large business, and every business in between by mandating and making state statute or law that New Mexico be carbon zero by 2050. And it's really an impossible task, given today's technology and rising appetite for more electricity. I mean, folks, you're hearing about these data centers, right? I mean, they've got huge appetites for electricity. And where's that electricity going to come from? There's no way it can come from intermittent, it's a hard word to say, source like wind or solar. It has to have base load. It has to come from a gas-operated generator or coal or nuclear. You know, if they want to loosen up the reins a bit on nuclear here in New Mexico and allow those to be constructed, great. More power to them. It's clean energy. And we've got a means of disposal safely of radioactive material that is a byproduct. And we've already got a plan for that. So I don't know why we're not doing it. It is expensive, but it's a great form of electricity. They've been using nuclear generation on American ships for decades and doing it safely. So we could take one out of their book, maybe out of the Navy's book. But the big losers would have been, of course, the oil and gas industry, and in the end, the biggest losers would have been the average citizen. They'd have been the ultimate loser. And I was going to read something that I had pulled up on my phone. Let's see if I can find it. I doubt I'm going to find it. Give me one more second here. Anyway, it's just, I'm not finding it. Oh, well, we'll move on. I looked at some other things after that, and they got lost. But so actually, it's been a few months ago now. One of my first shows, probably within the first 5 shows, I did a show on whole home fans, and I'm just a big fan of whole home fans and attic exhaust fans. If you couple those together, they could reduce their need for air conditioning in our neck of the woods up to as much as 90%. In their fans, they've got a motor that draws air through the house. That's the whole home fan. And the other one is through the attic and out the attic, basically circulating a lot of air. And just a neat idea. I've actually been following, what's the name of that company? Quiet Cool. I've been following them for about 5 years. And I'm just so impressed with them. They're affordable. They're DIY projects. And the reason why I'm bringing it up again is because we're entering that time of year where you need to start thinking about some spring projects where getting in the crawl space of your home or in the attic of your home, in this case, it's the attic, where the temperatures are going to be a little more comfortable. You know, right now it's still pretty cold up there because it gets cold and it remains cold at night. And that, you know, that works against your heater because you've got the cold bearing down on your ceiling from the attic. And it will leach through, or heat or cool will, I guess you could call it, radiate through your ceiling and into your rooms, causing you to have a higher heating bill. But it's the same happens in the summer, but the opposite. You know, it's the same causal effect. Basically, the heat is bearing down, and you know, and it can get to be upwards of 140 degrees in your attic. It may be 100 outside, but in the attic, in the stale air, and just no movement at all, it can really heat up. and that heat will bear down on your ceiling of your home. And remember, the heat is trying to get to a cool air as the cool is trying to get to the heat in the air. So they're it's a constant battle. You're losing conditioned air to your attic, or you're gaining attic hot heat from your attic into your conditioned room space. But man, these these whole home fans, and I wanted to do this again because I've just got to convince my wife, that this is something we need to do. I think it would be comfortable for us through this spring and summer, and she's listening, so I'm actually starting that conversation again right now. But I think we can get the money back that we invest if we list that as something, if it ever comes time that we need to sell our home. I think there are things you can do to your home that aren't you're not going to get back. I'd love to put a big job in the back, a 40 by 60 with a concrete, 2 garage doors, one on each end, and a walk-through door, and, insulated and got electrical, and that may be $60,000 to $80,000. Would I get that back when I try to go to sell my home? No. It may help me sell my home because it's cool. It's kind of like a swimming pool. That may help me sell my home. It may, in swimming pools, it's worse, obviously, because, half the people out there don't want a swimming pool. So that cuts your buying pool, play on words, in half. But and I think nobody's going to, turn their nose up to a nice big shop. But at the same time, $60,000 to $80,000, are you going to be able to get that back? I doubt it, but it could help sell your home. Anyway, I'm not going to try to talk her into that. I'm just trying to talk her into a whole home fan, which is a fraction of that cost. But whole home fans offer significant advantages, primarily including substantial energy and cost savings over air conditioning. They offer rapid cooling and improved indoor air quality. That's a big deal through continuous fresh air exchange. I've wanted one for 5 years. I just haven't gotten around to budgeting for it. Again, I off the top of my head, I don't even know how much they are. I think you could probably buy one and have it installed the proper size for my home and the attic exhaust fan, probably under $1,500. But like I said, when you start cutting into the reduced energy consumption as much as 90%. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be a 90%, but it could be in some months as much as 90% cooling energy reduction. But let's go through some of the energy efficiency and cost savings of a whole home fan. Lowering operating costs, whole home fans are extremely energy efficient, costing significantly less to run than central air conditioning. Often just pennies per hour compared to dollars per hour for central AC. Reduced energy consumption. Here it is. They typically use only 10 to 20% of the wattage consumed by an AC unit, AC air conditioning, leading to potential savings of 50 to 90% on cooling-related electric bills. Do I need to read that again? Reduce energy consumption. They typically use 10 to 20% of the wattage consumed by an AC unit. And again, this is, to me, you have to say this is coupled with an attic exhaust fan. I really think that's the only way you're going to hit this upper echelon of savings, that 90 percentile area. But anyway, 10 to 20% of wattage consumed by an AC unit, leading to potential savings of 50 to 90% on cooling-related electric bills. Faster payback. The initial installation cost is lower, substantially lower than central AC. We've already talked about it. I think you can do it for less than $1,500. And with significant monthly savings, the system can pay for itself in just a few summers. I would say system could pay for itself in 1 or 2 summers in suitable climates. And as far as suitable climates go, we're one of the best. It gets super hot in the summertime, and it cools off at nighttime. That is a key. I mean, I have gone to baseball games, when I was coaching in the middle of July, and go out there, at the baseball park, you know, 4 in the afternoon on a Saturday, and by 6, 7, 30, maybe 8, if we're playing a couple, maybe a doubleheader, I'm going to the car and getting my jacket because it is cooled off substantially, and that's what happens in the high plains of eastern New Mexico. We're a high elevation here. I mean, it is flat. You never. I tell people our elevation all the time. People that aren't from this part of the country, and I say we're at 4,200 feet, and they're like, "What?" They may be at sea level, and they're thinking, "Wow, you're sitting on top of a mountain." I guess we may be. We're on a big mesa, I guess, if you want to have a visual, but it is flat. But it can cool off substantially, and then if you throw a little rain in there, it's going to cool off even more. But another part of that formula which makes this area really suitable for this this climate would be low humidity. So they would be nice. I mean, honey, you're listening, so that was part of my spiel, but I'm going to go on. Extended AC life. This is a big one. By reducing the workload and runtime on your existing air conditioning system, a whole home fan helps extend the lifespan of the AC unit, saving on maintenance and replacement costs. So what if you spend $10,000 for an installation of a forced air central air conditioning unit? And that's on the low end these days, ladies and gentlemen, $10,000. But you could extend the life by 50%. Well, that's going to save you. You could extend the life, instead of a 15-year life expectancy, say that'll push it up to 50%. That's 22. 22 and a half years, right? Is that math right? No, that's not right. Yeah, that's right. 22 and a half years rather than 15 years. So you're basically using it for free, for 7.5 years, because you're not having to replace it. You're not having to come up with that money. And if you have to come up, then what's the system going to cost in 15 years? Say it's 10 to 12,000 now. What's an air conditioning system going to cost 15 years from now? 20,000? What if you had that money, that $20,000 you were going to need for a shorter lived AC, a shorter span life of AC because you didn't use a whole home fan? What if you put that in the market? Well, there's a 7-year rule in the market. It's unwritten rule, but it says your money should double in 7 years. So if you put that money in the market, that's 7.5 years that you're going to have extended lifetime on. That $20,000 quickly turns into $40,000. Ladies and gentlemen, a penny saved is a penny earned. In this case, thousands of dollars saved is thousands of dollars earned. That's the beauty of compound interest, too, in the market. You young people out there listening, you need to be socking money away if you can, reasonably can, in a 401 plan through your workplace, or a Roth IRA, or just a normal IRA, individual retirement plan, individual retirement account, I guess. Anyway, so a Roth is after tax, and a 401k is pre-tax, or a regular IRA could be pre-tax. But we can do a financial show some other time down the road. We do a financial show every week because we talk about savings. How can we save? Enhanced comfort and air quality. This is cool. Rapid cooling and ventilation. Whole house fans. I'll say house or home. They're really synonymous. Can cool a home much faster than AC by physically pushing hot, stale indoor air through the attic and drawing in large volumes of cool, fresh outdoor air through open windows. This is cool. Performing a complete air exchange every 3 to 4 minutes. I'll read that again. Rapid cooling and ventilation. Whole home fans can cool a home much faster than AC by physically pushing hot, stale indoor air You ever wonder how you get rid of the bacon smell? This is one way. Push it out through the attic and drawing in large volumes of cool, fresh air through open windows. So you strategically open a couple of windows, and your whole home fan will suck that air into the attic and out the attic, especially if you have an exhaust fan. If you don't, then you're moving that bacon smell into the attic, and all the little critters up there are all excited because they think there's bacon in the attic, and it turns out there's not. So they're disappointed. So you can mess with them a little bit. You know, those critters mess with us all the time. So it's payback time, ladies and gentlemen. Man, the whole thought of, that improved air quality, that continuous exchange of indoor air with fresh outdoor air, helping remove the indoor pollutants, allergens, moisture, odors from cooking and pets, like I talked about with the bacon, creating a healthier living environment. Is that appealing to you? It is to me. And I'm looking at my wife right now as she's listening. Is that appealing to you? Thermal mass cooling, running the fan during cooler evenings and nighttime hours, cools not only the air, the ambient air, but also the physical structures and contents of your home. We call that thermal mass, which helps the home resist heating up the following day. So there are certain things in your home that have higher thermal mass. That's another show we can do later. We talked about it a little bit, I know, in the first maybe 10 shows. But here we are into episode 36 of Morning Buzz with the Energy Guy. You thought I wasn't going to do it this show, I bet. We're 22 minutes after. We're going to continue on. But again, thermal mass could be a couch that's been in the sunlight. Say you had some open blinds, and the the sunlight's been beating down on this couch. Well, that as the sun falls going into the nighttime, that's going to leach out that heat from the couch. And there's other things that are like a marble top table. They're even higher thermal mass. Have you ever touched in a cool, darker room? Go ahead and touch a spot on a piece of marble. It's cold to the touch, and I don't care what time of year it is, folks. Now, where there's direct sunlight on that marble top, it will be a little warm. And if you've got a cat in your house, they will find areas that are high thermal mass. They find them because they want to be warm, so they'll just be curled up in a spot over here. Usually that's a high thermal mass area, or it's where the sun has been shining through the windows, through open blinds and curtains. And again, those items in your home, those that are high in thermal mass, physical structures, that air will leach out during the evening and into the morning, causing your air conditioner to run a little farther, but a little longer. But if you got the whole home fan, pushing that fan out, using that cool evening and nighttime temperatures through your house and into the attic, it is as that heat's leaching out, it will take it and suck it right out into the attic. Quiet operation. Modern, properly installed whole home fans are designed to be quiet, utilizing features like acoustical ducts to minimize noise and vibration, ensuring a peaceful environment even for sleep. And they are quiet. I have heard them before, and they are quiet. Environmental benefits. Eco-friendly by using natural ventilation, requiring less electricity than AC. Whole home fans are a greener cooling option that reduces your carbon footprint. Okay, you might feel good about that. A lot of people will feel good about it. Some people are indifferent about that. Some people just don't care. As they don't use refrigerants also to cool the air. So your carbon footprint is going to be lesser using the whole home fan versus your air conditioning, and reducing the amount of time your air conditioner is running. I talked about this a bit earlier, but whole home fans work best in climates where outdoor temperatures drop significantly in the evenings and at night. They are less suitable for high humidity areas. We're a low humidity area here. Now, I know we've got listeners out there that are in higher humidity areas. You just have to consult a dealer or ask someone online about your area and whether or not it would be suitable for a whole home fan. Because they don't dehumidify air like, a regular air conditioner would. Air conditioners dehumidify in home, and that's why they cause that's why they have moisture, and that water has to be ventilated somewhere, typically outside. Let's see. Again, quiet, cool. And I'm going to put this on our Facebook page, Morning Buzz with Energy Guy. I'll put a little video on, and so a picture speaks 1,000 words. I can talk all day long here, and it won't do as much as a 3 or 4 minute video of you actually seeing how these things are installed and how they operate. But again, it's a brand I've been following, this Quiet Cool, for about 5 years. The company emphasizes that its products are designed. This is important to me. It should be important to you. Designed, manufactured, and assembled right here in the good old USA. I feel good about that. And again, I'll be putting a link to a Quiet Cool video on our Facebook page. Morning Buzz with the Energy Guy. Ladies and gentlemen, it's 26 after. I was going to talk a little bit about some IT tips that Glenn Barleben, drummer extraordinaire, he does our intro and outro, but he's also our IT manager. I call him the IT guy, kind of like I'm the energy guy. He's the IT guy. And we're going to have him on our show in the upcoming future. Now, he says, don't you dare get on there and tell him I'm going to be on next week, because he says he just doesn't have time right now. But it is something I am looking forward to working with. And one thing he sent out in an email today, pretty long read, but it's chock full of a lot of good information. But it's how to avoid cyber threats through phishing email schemes. And then there's smishing, which is the SMS phishing, which is it's using text messages instead of emails to steal personal data, bank details, and install malware or malicious stuff. And he's going to spend some time on that and other things when we talk to the IT guy, Glenn Barleben, and that's coming up in a show in the near future. Oh, February 21st. Can you believe February 21st already? Good grief. This year is flying by. And I'm going to do a little This Day in History. Born on this day in history, February 21st, Alan Rickman. Maybe for those Harry Potter fans, that might jump out and say, ooh, Severus Snape. Yeah, and of Harry Potter fame, and Hans Gruber of my favorite Christmas movie, Die Hard. But he was born February 21st, 1946, and unfortunately passed away 10 years ago. Seriously? 2016. It seems like just yesterday I heard that Alan Rickman passed, but I enjoyed him. He's a great actor because his role in Severus Snape, you really can't relate it to Hans Gruber on Die Hard. And of course, they're 35 years probably separated the two, maybe less, but great actor, and hate that he passed. But he's born on this day in 1946. Kelsey Grammer, also 1955, actor who was famous for Cheers and Frasier and other things. 1963, William Baldwin, one of the Baldwin brothers, was born. And in 1979, Jennifer Love Hewitt, actress for many, many movies and TV specials, including her role in Ghost Whisperer. On this day in history, February 21st, there was so much, but I'm just going to share 3 of the biggies that I found on here. Karl Marx publishes his Communist Manifesto in 1848. On February 21st, 1848, the Communist Manifesto, written by Karl Marx with the assistance of Friedrich Engels, is published in London by a group of German-born revolutionary socialist communists known as the Communist League. So thank you, Karl Marx, for something that has been terrible for most of its world implementation. And as far as I'm concerned, is the cause of a lot of death since that book was published in 1848. Battle of Valverde. This is New Mexico history. 1862. On this day, February 21st, 1862, at the Battle of Valverde, Confederate troops under General Henry Hopkins Sibley attack Union troops commanded by Colonel Edward R.S. Canby near Fort Craig in the New Mexico Territory. The first major engagement of the Civil War in the far west, and the battle produced heavy casualties, and it says no decisive result, but there was. Sibley's troops were repelled, and Colonel Canby's troops, let's see, I'm sorry, I have those backwards. Henry Sibley's troops, the Confederate troops, drove through the Northern troops, the Yankee troops, Union troops, Edward R.S. Canby, near Fort Craig, and they moved up the Rio Grande. And they actually controlled Mesilla, New Mexico, which later became the split New Mexico in half with a horizontal line. And New Mexico at the time, New Mexico Territory, included Arizona and New Mexico, but it split it in half. And Mesilla was named the capital of Arizona, which included all of southern New Mexico and all of present-day southern Arizona. And anyway, yeah, I know a little bit about it. So Sibley's troops moved on and ended up at Glorieta and Pigeons Ranch. And there was a skirmish at Pigeons Ranch, and finally the Battle of Glorieta, which was a decisive victory for the Union troops. And Colonel Canby and Colorado Volunteers, the New Mexico Volunteers. And it's interesting. You should, if you're a Civil War fan or a fan of history in general, there are two battles, official battles, in the state of New Mexico, the Battle of Valverde and the Battle of Glorieta, or Apache Canyon. It's named that as well. But in the end, the Union troops won, and the Confederate troops went back to Texas. They were basically Texans. Then some of their leadership actually came from the eastern United States, one of which was Henry Hopkins Sibley. But he's famous for the Sibley tent and the Sibley, inventing the Sibley tent and the Sibley stove, camp stove. Look those up too. So he's not only famous or infamous for the invasion of New Mexico by the Texans, but he's also famous for those two inventions. One more real quick. Malcolm X assassinated in 1965. February 21st, 1965, in New York City, Malcolm X, a black nationalist and religious leader, is assassinated while addressing his organization of Afro-American Unity at the Audubon Ballroom, in Washington Heights, and he was only 39 years old. So there was a bunch more. I think I saw a dedication of the Washington Monument. I can't remember what year that was, and a few more. But an important date in American history, anyway, is February 21st. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed this. We're 34 minutes in. It went a little longer than normal. Still have that cough. I've been talking about it for weeks now. I think I had this cough since right around Christmas. But it's not constant. It's just times like this where I'm talking a lot and I don't have something to drink. I actually have a little something here. Some iced tea. But it's just a little tickle and then it's really dry, unproductive cough. But I'm still able to say, Morning Buzz with the Energy Guy. Hope you've enjoyed our show. We'll see you next week.